EU leaders are gathered in Brussels trying to find a way to agree on a deal to use tens of billions of euros worth of frozen Russian assets to help Ukraine. I spoke earlier to the Minister of Finance for Lithuania, Kristupas Vaitiekūnas, and asked whether he was confident about the EU reaching a deal.
Of course, we all understand that these frozen assets is the best way to fund Ukraine, because it sends very clear political message. And this message is that aggressor pays for restoration of Ukraine and all the expenses it needs now.
That's the Lithuanian finance minister talking to me earlier. We're joined on the line by Bruno Waterfield, the Times Brussels correspondent. Hello to you, Bruno. Welcome.
Good evening.
Bruno, hi. Any word on how it's going?
Well, there's just been a break. It's been a very intense afternoon in the wings of a summit as leaders have had bilaterals with each other. They've had bilaterals meetings with the Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever, and also their Sherpas, their top officials, have been holding very intense discussions to try and find an agreement on that. So just going back into the summit now, I think there probably will be a deal. I think there has to be, and it'll probably be the early hours of the morning. But this is a very difficult decision. It's a very difficult discussion, particularly for Belgium. Belgium has enough skin in the game, but if it had to pay all the money back and Belgium is legally responsible for it, it would cause the collapse of the Belgian state, collapse of the Belgian economy.
Do you then have any idea? I mean, obviously, we're not going to hold you to your prediction, but you sound reasonably confident there will be a deal. Do you have any sense of what that deal might look like?
Well, so we're talking about held on EU territory. We're talking about 210 billion euros worth of frozen Russian state assets, mainly from the central bank. 185 billion of that is held in Euroclear, which is a European securities house, which is here in Brussels. Now, the EU leaders want to use or transfer some of that money in order to act as collateral for a 90 billion euro loan to Ukraine next March that would cover Kyiv's finances until the end of 2027. That would still leave 120 billion euros sort of left over, and that could act as a cash reserve. If for some reason Russia suddenly demanded that money back or legally demanded it back, then that would act as a buffer, and it means that for some of the guarantees that member states are going to have to give, the EU is going to have to give to cover Belgians back for these liabilities is much more durable. So I think it will be, as ever, a complex deal. The EU has a bit of time to finalise details into spring next year, so there might be a slightly fudgy element to it. I mean, they are very good at cooking up fudge at these high-pressure summits.
The EU, and we learned this from reporting just in the last 24 hours or so, is caught in something of a pincer. On the one side, you have Russia, Putin's gang, are threatening violence in some cases against some of the players here, including some of those at Euroclear, if they go ahead and get this money to Ukraine. Meanwhile, from the other side, Donald Trump, we read in the Times, is warning European leaders not to give Ukraine this help. He doesn't want this loan to go to Ukraine. Apparently the White House feels it would just prolong the war, and it's quite a bit of pressure. Is there any indication you are seeing, Bruno, of that sort of pressure from two sides having any effect?
Well, I think you need to make a distinction between Putin and Russia and Trump, obviously. Now, what it is with Trump, I mean, Trump isn't against these assets being seized or transferred. In fact, we know that is part of his planned peace settlement. What Washington, or some in Washington anyway, are uneasy about is the EU controlling those purse strings, the EU having that as a bargaining chip. In fact, though, the EU already does, because the EU permanently immobilised these assets more or less last week. Putin, as we've known, we've seen since the summer, since this idea of confiscating assets firmed up on the European side, we've seen repeated drone incursions. Bart de Wever, the Belgian Prime Minister, at the beginning of this month, spoke about personal threats. He spoke about Russia warning him of eternal retaliation. And again, since the end of last month, we've known that officials at Euroclear have had very specific and direct threats, and at least one of those officials now is protected by bodyguards.
All right, Bruno, Waterfield, thank you so much.
It is good that the European Council has committed itself last time that we will close the financing gap of Ukraine for the next 2 years. We're speaking about 137 billion euros that are necessary. It's the estimate, our own estimate, and the estimate of the IMF. And we have committed to cover 2/3 of it, 90 billion euros. I totally support Belgium that they insist on having their concerns and worries accommodated. And we are working day and night with Belgium, and I want to thank the Prime Minister for his personal engagement here. It's absolutely understandable, and I support that if we take the reparations loan, the risk has to be shared by all of us. This is a matter of solidarity, a core principle of the European Union. We have to find a solution today. The President of the Council said, and I support him in that, we will not leave the European Council without a solution for the funding for Ukraine for the next 2 years. And the two options, one of them then has to be agreed in the European Council.
Either money today or blood tomorrow. And I am not talking about Ukraine only, I am talking about Europe. And this is our decision to make, and only ours. I think all European leaders have to finally rise to this occasion. And this is all what I can say today. Now.
Why are you against giving money to Ukraine? Why are you opposed to it?
Because I would not like to see a European Union which is in war. To give money means war. Guarantees for what? The whole idea is a stupid one. To take away the money of somebody. There are two countries which are in war, yeah? It's not European Union, Russia and Ukraine. And somebody, European Union, would like to take away the money of one of the warriors party and then to give it to another one. It's a marching into the war. So the Belgian Prime Minister is right. We should not do that.
They have to come back using the budget.
Now, the proposals that we have been working on, also addressing Belgium's concerns. I think to go for the legislative proposal means that we all take the risk because it's a European proposal, so the risk and the burden is shared equally. So I think the issues that Belgium has raised, we have also addressed. So I hope that we get this over the finishing line.